Yeah. We're back with another one. Yeah.
What's going on, Juco?
We reacting over here. I'm El Jefe. We just gonna like and subscribe. Have fun. Kick back. Myth Cartel. Y'all like and subscribe because you're gonna love it. This is Smith Cartel channel. Go ahead and like, subscribe. We gonna keep going fed until we go live. I'm El Jefe, the big boss, kicking at Third Coast. We going, running, smiling, man. We doing the most to my family. I wish you the best. Remember what Jefe taught you, boy. Say it with your chest. Big boy, big boss. I rock it in the South. Got these folks slugs and all this gold shining in my mouth. I'm the man, understand. Like and subscribe. We gon' keep spinning the block until we get it right. Yeah, that's real. Like and subscribe, that's the channel. We keep it real, give you more than you can handle. Yeah, like and subscribe. Smith Cartel, I'm El Jefe. All right. Smith Cartel channel. Y'all like and subscribe to the channel. We back with another one. This one's gonna be crazy, y'all. I gotta see this. I ain't even seen it. It said when a judge is secretly a serial killer. The mystery. Woo. Let's check it out, y'all. This is Smith Cartel channel. Y'all like and subscribe. I'm Jefe. I'm gonna be your host. Let's check it out and see what we got going today. This supposed to be wild as hell. Judge? Oh,
on March
goodness.
21st, 2013, in Wise County, Texas, Deputy James
Wise
Gray was
County.
performing a routine traffic stop on a
I know where that's
1991
at.
black Cadillac DeVille. What he didn't realize was that the person driving this vehicle was the notorious Evan Spencer Ebel, a member of a violent prison gang known as the 211 Crew.
Oh.
Evan was incorrectly released from prison just 2 months before this encounter due to an error in his court records. During
Uh-oh.
his short taste of freedom, he obtained a 9mm pistol and killed a Domino's delivery driver named
What?
Nathan Leon, stealing his uniform in the
Man.
process. Evan then wore that uniform as a disguise and rang the doorbell of Tom Clements, the executive director of the Colorado Department of Corrections. When
What?
Tom answered the door, he was shot directly in the chest and killed.
In the shocking overnight
What?
murder of the head of Colorado's prison system, Tom Clements was gunned down as he answered the
Crazy.
front door of his Monument home last night. Air Tracker 7 was over the home this morning. Investigators are searching the area for clues, and they are talking to neighbors.
That's
2 days after the
crazy.
shooting brings us right back to this traffic stop on March 21st.
Oh, man,
and
that
it
cop
seems
is out of
that
there.
Evil Ebel would rather continue his murder spree than go back to prison. In this exact
Right
moment,
there, he reached
Deputy
out and
Boyd was
popped him.
shot 3 times, twice in the chest and once in the head. Unfortunately, due to YouTube's sensitive
Yeah, he
graphic
reached
violence
out. You can see him
guidelines,
reaching
we are
out.
unable to show this shooting on screen. However, Deputy Boyd recovered from his injuries and
Hmm.
later described the experience.
I remember seeing the
Man,
gun
me remember that. I got
shoot
a
off
bullet.
a number of
I
amount
got
of
a
times,
shot in my head right
and I
there.
could see the cartridges fly out. At which point I blacked out.
I remember how bad it
I had
hurt
no
afterwards.
clue
Not
whether I was
during it.
standing,
'Cause I
sitting,
pulled out that street
playing,
sweeper and got
whatever.
to going.
While squirming
I
on
got
the
to making
ground
it
in shock
happen.
and agony, Deputy Boyd is spotted by
And
a
that night
random
I
civilian
became
who
a
pulls
legend.
over to help. Backup is called in, and while Deputy Boyd gets some much-needed medical attention, numerous officers from several jurisdictions are quickly in hot pursuit of the shooter.
Man, he
The
moving.
chase reaches speeds of over
Them
100
Cadillac-
miles per
yeah, them
hour.
Cadillacs can
More
get
shots
up.
are fired at law
Especially that,
enforcement,
what is that,
all
that
while
sedan
moving
DeVille?
in
Oh,
and
yeah,
out
that
of
mug gonna
traffic.
move.
At one point, Evan
Believe
blows a
it was a
tire
little
and
longer.
smoke billows out from his vehicle, hindering the police cruiser's field of view. But the officer remains calm and stays right on Evan's tail. Eventually, Evan exits the highway
Blew
and
a
the
head
chase
gasket.
continues through the streets of Wise County.
It done
Then,
blew out a
of nowhere,
gasket in this
an
mug.
18-wheeler
Stole a
slams
rod.
into Evan. His
Oh!
car is totaled, but the action isn't over yet. Evan immediately exits the vehicle and fires a barrage of bullets at the officers. The officers fire back, hitting Evan multiple times. Evan Ebel was killed instantly. Several significant
Evan Ebel.
pieces of evidence were found in Evan's Cadillac, including Nathan's Domino's uniform, directions to Tom Clements' house, a manifesto outlining his grievances with the prison system, and a hit list of other prison officials. This was an
Dang.
immediate red flag for authorities, as just 7 weeks earlier, another shooting took place with striking similarities. On January 31st, 2013, just 3 days after Evan Ebel was released from prison, a DA in Kaufman County was shot just outside of the courthouse.
Kaufman County 911. Yes, sir. We've got a gentleman on Grove Street and Madison that just got shot.
Officer Jason Statsny was the first to arrive at the scene. He
Man, he out right
began
there.
CPR.
You got a shot in his face. There you go. There you go. There you go, buddy. Keep breathing for me.
5 minutes later, an ambulance arrived and an EMT took over.
Anybody know anything about it? He's one of the DA prosecutors.
The victim was 57-year-old Mark Hassey, the chief assistant DA for Kaufman County.
And they knew he was
quickly
gone.
secured, and Mark was loaded into the ambulance. Soon after being transported to the hospital, he tragically passed away.
Yeah, they knew
With
it.
the shooter at large, the courthouse was shut down for the day, and police began to canvass the area.
Crazy.
Witnesses stated that the shooter was wearing all black with a covered face, and that they fled the scene by hopping into the passenger seat of a getaway car, a silver or light-colored four-door sedan. Another witness claimed to have heard Mark's final words, "No, I'm sorry," right before he was shot. Investigators had a feeling that one of the criminals Mark prosecuted sought revenge through a targeted killing, and Mark's final words only supported this theory. While they worked to verify this hunch, District Attorney Mike McClelland made a public statement where he addressed the shooter directly.
My name is Mike McClelland. I'm the criminal district attorney for Kaufman County. We lost a really, really good man. I hope that the people that did this are watching, because we're very confident that we're going to find you. We're going to pull you out of whatever hole you're in, and we're going to bring you back and let the people of Kaufman County prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
2 months later, when Evan Ebel's murder spree ended with his death, Mike and Kaufman authorities wondered if they could link Evan's 211 crew affiliation and hit list to Mark's murder as well. Unfortunately, Mike wouldn't live long enough to find out. As he became the next victim.
Oh, damn!
And his wife Cynthia.
What the hell?
To death.
It is the
What
second
the
shooting of
hell?
a prosecutor
This
in a
man
small
is the
Texas town
he's the
this
Grim
year,
Reaper.
Coming just 2 months after Assistant District
This is
Attorney Mark
crazy.
Hassey was shot dead outside the local courthouse on his way
Wow.
On March 30th, 2013, friends and family
He
were
knocking
unable
them
to get in
all
touch
down.
with District Attorney Mike McClelland and his wife Cynthia. When they went to check on them, the door was unlocked. Inside, they immediately noticed shell casings at their feet. They feared the worst, and after moving toward the living room, Cynthia was found lying motionless in a pool of blood. Further into the house, they discovered Mike's body as well, riddled with bullets. The McClellands had been brutally murdered. Authorities rushed to the scene and spent the night processing it.
That's
It was
crazy
discovered
as
that the
hell, man.
McClellands
That's
had a
crazy
home
work
security
right there.
system that kept track of any movement detected in the house. All movement stopped by 6:42 a.m. that morning, indicating that the shooting must have taken place around this time. News quickly spread of the McClelland murders, and while hundreds of investigators got to work, a multitude of tips poured in from the public. But one of these tips was much different than the others. It came in on the night of Easter Sunday, and it simply read,
"Do we have your full attention now? Only a response from Judge Bruce Woods will be answered. You have 48 hours."
What the hell is going on?
Never sue the other driver after a car accident. There's a better way to get paid a way bigger check without having to go to court.
Hours.
Law enforcement decided to respond.
You have our attention. How can the county judge contact
you?
Since the Crime Stoppers program protects the anonymity of those sending tips, law enforcement had no choice but to await a response from this mysterious tipster. 12 hours later, that response came. It started with,
"Your act of good faith will result in no other attacks this weekend."
This mysterious person went on to prove that they were in fact the killer by stating the kind of ammunition used to murder Mike Hassey.
That's
something
crazy.
Only law enforcement and the killer would know. Then, the killer had a very specific demand.
Judge Woods must offer a resignation of one of the 4 main judges in Kaufman. My superiors will see this as a first step, ending our action. Do not report any details of this arrangement. You have until Friday at 4 p.m. We are not unreasonable, but we will not be stopped.
Law enforcement then responded yet again.
We are working on your demands. A lot has been put out to the media. Can you give us additional details that are specific to this case and not known by the press?
Unfortunately, the conversation ended there,
That's
leaving law
crazy.
enforcement wondering if these were threats
This dude
coming
like
from
the,
Evan Ebel's fellow gang members.
The dude,
Ebel was a member
the son
of
of
the
Sam?
white supremacist
Was it
prison
Son of Sam?
gang called the 211 Crew.
Or the
recent
Zodiac
years,
Killer.
Experts say ultra-violent white supremacist prison gangs like the 211 Crew and the much larger
That's
Aryan
crazy.
Brotherhood, the subject of this National Geographic investigation, have expanded their criminal enterprises outside the prison walls, selling drugs and running guns, all directed from behind bars.
They devised all kinds of codes, so they might send out a letter that looks like a quite benign letter but is actually directing a hit or some other kind of criminal activity.
Still, experts say it is extremely
I
rare
forgot.
for
This is
prison
old,
gangs
so
to
that's why
kill
he just
top
realized this
officials,
is a while
because
back.
to do so
Back
means
then.
all-out war.
I was like, damn, y'all ain't know that?
Tonight, war may well
Look at
be
them,
what
look at
the
them prison
211
doors. They
Crew
all, that's
has
the
on
new
its
ones
hands.
right there.
With the possibility of more organized gang
And
violence
even
on
more
the way,
newer, they got
detectives were
glass
in
now, like
overdrive, searching
plexi,
for anything or
plexiglass,
anyone to help
something.
identify Mike and
Ugh,
Cynthia's
excuse me.
shooter. While reviewing surveillance footage from businesses around the McClelland household, a white Ford Crown Victoria can be seen speeding through the streets. Meanwhile, another team of investigators were taking a look through the past cases involving both Mike McClelland and Mark Hasse. From these case files, a new suspect emerged, former Justice of the Peace and Mensa member, Eric Williams. In 2011, Eric was arrested and charged with felony theft. This Mensa-certified genius seemed to have forgotten that there were cameras in the courthouse when he stole 3 computers. Following his arrest, he was brought to the interrogation room for questioning.
Okay, before we get started, I'm ready to Miranda warning. You're an attorney, you're a judge, so you know this. What does that mean?
I know you gotta read. It's been an ongoing kind of thing where I tell the IT people, look, that I need to keep improving things.
I understand, but you hadn't put any kind of written request, nothing like that's been documented, done. I don't think that you actually believe, I mean, you're an educated person, I see your class ring on your finger, that you can just walk into the ID department and say, I need a monitor, I'm taking that one. I mean,
There's places that do that.
places being here in Coleman County or?
Well, I mean, there's businesses that, yeah.
Eric was offered a plea deal, which would reduce the charges from a felony to a misdemeanor. But he refused this offer, and the case was sent to trial. The prosecution team consisted of Mark Hasse and Mike McClelland. Eric was ultimately found guilty. He was only
It makes
sentenced to 2
sense
years
now.
probation.
Now
What
it
really
makes
stung was that
sense.
he was now a
So
convicted
these are
felon.
the
As a
guys
result,
that
his
messed
position
that
as
did
Justice
his
of the Peace
case.
and
Okay.
his law license were revoked. Following Mark and Mike's death in
Ooh,
2013,
excuse me, y'all.
Eric was
Sorry
asked
about
to
that.
take part in a police interview.
Ooh.
He refused to speak with the investigators.
Told y'all
following
my
the advice
allergies
of
is on
his
10 out
attorneys.
here.
However, Eric had no problem speaking with the media, giving his 2 cents throughout the investigation.
First, I want to say that my deepest condolences go out to the McClelland family and all the people at the courthouse, most of which I know. I cooperated with law enforcement. I certainly wish them the best in bringing justice for this.
Okay.
Incredibly egregious.
Has anyone connected with this investigation
So he
suggested to you that you are a
playing
person of
devil's
interest in the
advocate.
investigation?
He doing the
Did you
whole
bear either of
thing.
those men any kind of grudge?
No, absolutely not. My heartfelt condolences go out
Crazy.
to both the McClelland family and the Hasse family.
Why them glasses look too? Is it because his head too
they
big?
were in
Them
public
glasses
office
look way too
doing the
small
right
on
thing.
him. They look like
And
tiny as hell. They
for some
look like
reason,
yeet,
they were
right up
not
in the
aware
middle.
of
Is that just me? It's
paid
maybe
the
just me.
ultimate price for that.
I
While
think
Eric
he
segued
look like
between
Peter
several
Griffin.
media outlets,
I'm just saying.
investigators continued to look into him.
He
as
out
the
here
prime
riding
suspect. To
segways
their
and stuff while
surprise,
y'all
Eric had no
investigating the
record
murder that he
of ever
did.
owning a weapon
Come
of
on,
any kind.
bruh.
Thankfully,
Come
in
on,
April
bruh. Only a
12 days
judge could
after
get
the
away with
McClelland
that.
Murders, Eric fired his attorneys and
Look
reached
at his
out to the
glasses. Tell me his
authorities
glasses don't look too small.
Detectives immediately headed
He
to
gotta
Eric's
have a
residence
headache.
to interview him.
Hey, Eric, I appreciate it.
I know they
Thank
painting
you
his
very much.
nose.
And you understand why your name pops up in all this.
Absolutely. I know.
Well, did you have anything to
It's
do with it?
crazy. White guys always say that.
As
Absolutely, I
expected,
know
Eric
why.
insisted that
Dude,
he had
y'all
zero
was.
involvement regarding the murders, so the detectives
Yeah,
decided
remember
to
when me
take
and
a
Billy went
different
over there to
angle.
Buck's
You don't
house?
have any
Yeah.
more? You got rid of
I
all
have
of them?
one gun I'm trying to sell, and it's just hard as hell to sell.
I bet
Hey,
it's
just
the
curious,
one you
how many
use.
guns did you used to own?
About 16.
And you sold 15 of them?
For context, since Eric is a convicted felon, it is illegal for him to own any firearms.
Any guns, yeah.
I'd love to go back and say, there's no guns in that house. If we looked in that house,
I guess we could just look in there real quick.
Without probable cause, the detectives are unable to legally search Eric's home unless he grants them permission
Yeah.
himself.
but you don't mind us going out there and looking? Okay.
I'll take that.
With permission now granted, the detectives begin their search. Audio
You might know Harbor Freight
That's
for
where they mess up
affordability.
because they want to try to
What you
look
might
innocent
not
by
know
saying
is
yeah and
performance
think they're gonna
and
be like, oh, I ain't
durability.
gonna check it. Boy, they finna check that.
Do you still have any ammo or anything?
Last year, the only ammo I would have would be for that.
As Eric stated earlier, he had apparently sold all but one of his 16 firearms. But as
Yeah.
they move from room to room,
We'll
they
see.
uncover a host of weapon attachments.
Hey, Eric, I'm just curious. You're selling all your guns. Why didn't you say your spotting and stuff?
You got through everything yet, I guess.
Here, what is that?
Just think of taser or something?
The taser they just discovered is actually a thermal sensor, otherwise known as a heat seeker, which can be used for night vision. Since the McClellans were believed to have been killed before sunrise, the detectives used this along with the suspicious amount of firearm
used that to see where they was at and
for a
stuff.
proper search warrant. The next day, on April 12th, 2013, the search is in full swing. with
Ooh,
Kaufman
you see
County
all them come in.
investigators and the FBI working
Them girls
together.
got all
During
that.
the
Now that's
search,
when the
they
girls
found
would be in law
even
enforcement because they could snoop.
In
They
a
know how
filing
to.
cabinet
I
in
used
the
to tell one of my
garage, they found the
friends,
vehicle
I said,
registration
hey,
for a
girls will
white
find
Ford
out where money at if you
They
missing
also
it.
found a scrap piece of
For
paper.
real.
Written on it was an
They good at that,
anonymous tip
boy,
website
but when it comes to
and a
the
password.
aggressive
When
stuff, the
police gained
fans or
access to
nah.
this account, they confirmed that Eric
We just
was the
doing them
one
a
taunting
disservice
and
by putting them
extorting
out there
law
like that.
enforcement.
We are not unreasonable, but we will not be stopped.
Yeah, that's nothing against them. That just means that they better in different areas of it. That's how it's always been. Everybody different areas. That's how you win. You have a group of people that's mixed the genders. You use the genders to your advantage. Most people who don't be the ones that lose.
Office convicted him of theft. He has not been named a suspect in the murders.
As the investigation honed in on Eric, several more tips came
Look at
in,
the
including
FBI
one
everywhere.
from a man named Roger. Roger and Eric became friends during their time in the Texas
man.
State Guard. And in November of 2012,
Here we
Eric
go.
convinced Roger to rent a storage unit for him. Once Roger heard about the search of Eric's home, he immediately reached out to law enforcement. and
Yeah,
told
let
them
him know
this
about
unit.
his
On
his
April 13th,
thing.
2013, police executed a search of this
Oh,
unit, and to say they hit
no.
the jackpot would be an understatement. Not only did they
There
find
it
the
is.
white Crown Victoria, but they also unveiled police uniforms and badges, bulletproof vests, and an
Wow.
arsenal of weaponry, including knives, a crossbow, multiple guns, and ammunition that could have killed both Mark Hasse and the McClellans. And of course, pickle jars filled with homemade napalm. Several firearms were sent in for forensic testing, along with a stray bullet which was found in a random bag away from all of the other ammunition. As for the silver sedan, police were eventually able to locate receipts for a silver Mercury Sable, which had been towed away after sitting in the storage facility's parking lot for too long. The test results came back, and after comparing the bullet with the shell casings at the murder scene, they were able to confirm that the bullet was ejected from the same weapon that killed the McClellans. However, they were unable to confirm if the firearms that they tested were used in any of the murders. Although this was very frustrating, prosecutors ultimately decided to move forward.
But couldn't
On
his
April
lawyers
18th,
tear that up by
2013,
making the saying
Eric
that it's his
Williams
friends?
was charged with 3 counts of capital murder.
That's
In capital murder
crazy.
cases, the state divides the trial into 2 phases: the guilt phase and the penalty phase. During the guilt phase, a jury decides the defendant's guilt or innocence. If the defendant is found guilty, the trial moves to a penalty phase, in which the jury receives additional information and decides whether or not the defendant
crazy.
should be executed. The guilt phase began in December of 2014 and was
That
only
is
addressing
crazy as
one
hell.
of the 3 charges, the murder of Cynthia McClelland. This was devised by the prosecution team so that if anything went wrong in the first trial, they could essentially get a second chance through another trial.
Yeah.
Prosecutors summarized the investigation for the jury, portraying Eric as an egotistical and calculated killer who would go to great lengths for revenge.
I mean,
This is my chance to tell you the story of the murders of Mike and Cynthia McClelland. He sent an email into law enforcement claiming credit for the murders, thinking law enforcement would never figure it out. Well, he was wrong.
They also used the storage facility's surveillance footage to establish a timeline of the crime. At about 6 a.m., the Crown Victoria can be seen entering the parking lot, then leaving 12 minutes later at around 6:12 a.m. Then, after killing the McClellans at around 6:42 a.m., the vehicle heads back to the storage unit, arriving at 7 a.m. 17 minutes later, a black SUV can be seen leaving the area. The defense, on the other hand, focused on the weak points in the prosecution's case.
Eric Williams did not commit these murders. There is no known murder weapon in this case.
Oh.
There's no one who can place Eric Williams in that scene at the McClellan home.
well, that's, hey,
The
they can't.
prosecution called an onslaught of witnesses, meticulously breaking down each and every piece of evidence and testimony. As for the defense, they called
crazy.
no witnesses during the guilt phase of the trial. They simply believed that it was unnecessary since the state failed to prove Eric's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
True, I
However,
mean,
the
hey.
final say would go to the jury, and after 90 minutes of deliberation, a verdict was reached.
We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant, Eric Lyle Williams, guilty of capital
Damn.
murder as charged in the
Oof.
indictment.
Eric Williams
I mean,
was found
you
guilty
you
for
was
the
pretty
murder of
much
Cynthia
done
McClelland.
with the Crown
It is
Vic.
now time for the penalty phase, where the jury decides whether or not Eric will receive the death penalty. Perhaps the most compelling moment of the trial is what happened next. This is Kim Williams, Eric's wife and alleged getaway driver. Back in 2013, Kim was arrested at the same time as Eric, and detectives spoke with her for hours in the interrogation room. Although she was first defensive about her husband, she slowly let her guard down and eventually told the detectives what really happened. They convinced her to take a plea deal. Since she was protected by spousal immunity, she was not forced to testify against Eric. However,
you're going to get life in prison and you can get 99 years.
During the penalty phase of the trial, she agreed.
It was a cold day.
Or the deal was life or death.
There was excitement in the air. He came up with a plan to dress like law enforcement. He was modeling it for me.
That dope be tearing her teeth up in the end.
What he was modeling for you that
Look, she done gained weight and everything. She probably was skinny as
He was
all.
in the Army or SWAT. He had a bulletproof vest that had sheriff on the front. That more than likely Mrs. McClellan was going to answer the door and he was going to introduce himself as a policeman.
You may be wondering why Cynthia had to die if Mike was the target. Kim explained Eric's simple reasoning to the court.
She would be there as a witness, and he described it as collateral damage.
What did he tell you about how Cynthia McClellan died?
He told me that he had to shoot her an extra time because she was still moaning.
That night, Kim and Eric celebrated the double murder by having a feast.
We had steaks on the grill, and Eric cooked those.
Wow. So she is part of it.
At my parents' house.
Were you all celebrating with steaks?
That's correct.
During the guilt phase of the trial, the prosecution team was not allowed to bring up
She
the
look like
details of
crap,
the Mark
too.
Hasse
The
case.
drugs be
So they
tearing their
used
butt
this
up when they get
opportunity
older.
to bring the jury
Especially when they're young. They think they look good. They be like, oh, I look
Yes, I
good.
did.
No, you don't. You look like
Yes, I
death
did.
warmed
Why
over.
did you agree to drive to the murder of Mark Hasse?
I was so drugged up, and I so believed in Eric and everything that he told me. His anger was my anger.
Kim went on to recount the moments following Mark's shooting.
As you're driving away from the scene of the Hasse murder, what is his mood like?
Happy.
What is your mood like?
Happy.
She also recalled driving
mean,
to a
at least
bridge
she's
ride
honest.
with Eric, where he threw a
She was
bag
honest.
into the lake below.
Do you know what was in the bag?
I knew that it was guns.
After 7 months of
Ugh.
searching, the bag was found at the bottom of the lake. It turns out
Wow.
that it wasn't a bag at all, but rather a Halloween mask that Eric wore during Mark's shooting in order to conceal his face. Inside the mask was 2 revolvers, one of which was
Got 'em.
confirmed to have killed Mark.
And you can
Got
imagine
him.
the terror that was going through Mark Hasse when he recognized and heard the voice.
Kim also revealed that Eric had several more victims in mind. This hit list included a judge that he planned on killing in a more creative way than the others.
And who else?
Judge Ashworth.
Don't ever do a crime with a female. She gonna tell it all, boy. She gonna tell it all.
What was the date on for?
She didn't even have to tell it. She still, they gave her a deal and she said, I'm telling it all.
He's going to bore a hole in his stomach and pour it in.
The defense tried to combat this disturbing testimony with a small army of character witnesses. No matter how hard the defense worked, Eric's fate was ultimately left to the jury. And on December 17th, 2014,
That's crazy.
Eric Williams was sentenced to death by lethal injection.
Damn, I knew it.
To carry out the sentence of
Bet
death.
you his wife
As
didn't
of
know.
November 2020,
How many times
Eric
she
is
get?
still on death row and
She
is
got 2
appealing
years
his
in
conviction.
probation.
Kim Williams pled guilty to the murder of Mark Hasse and was sentenced to 40 years in prison.
Oh, okay, at least that's 40. Should have got the death penalty too, but hey, it is what it is. Girls ain't gonna get
Pretty much
charged
the only
like
thing
that.
I have to say is, you, Eric Williams.
Wow. That's crazy. Hey, shout out to Stay Awake, Crime and Psycho. That was insane, yo, right there. That one was pretty saucy. I like that one though, because it was kind of like, I kind of was like, man, no, he didn't do it. Then they started off and they had the twist when the guy was there, man. That was good. I was like, man, that dude is. So he got out and and then it was just gone from there. But dang, man. The judge went fed, boy. The judge went fed. Literally, he went fed. You see how many feds was at his house? I'd have cried. I'm like, oh, Lord Jesus. Oh, Lord, this is not today, not today. I swear for Lord, boy. I tell you what. But y'all like and subscribe to the Swift Cartel channel, man. I'm Hefe. I'll see y'all on the next one. That was a good one, though, man. To my family, I love y'all, and y'all already know what it is. To y'all, be breezy, baby.